Yeah.
And there's also like tinges of glam rock and like
Yes.
stadium rock in this. So to me, this album, while being this whole rock opera about this guy who's dying and experiencing death in real time, and you're walking through it with him, um, it's also this love letter to 70s rock, in a lot of ways.
It's showtime, folks.
Hey, everybody. Hello, good evening, and welcome, and awooga to all you Gladiator fans out there. Welcome to another episode of Into the Music. My name's John. His name's Andy. And together...
Together, our country's tie in World Cup games.
Together, we provide great relief for those suffering from insomnia when we play football. It's terrible. But anyway, I hear that from the local neighbourhood gossip, that's Dirty Gertie from number 30, that you have got a tune for me. What have you got?
I do. Have you ever heard of a band called My Chemical Romance?
Yes.
Yes. And I'm assuming that you're probably familiar with one song of theirs, right?
You were more than one song.
Oh, really? Well, that's a surprise to me. Are you familiar with a song of theirs called House of Wolves?
Not familiar. I know of it, but I couldn't tell you how it goes or whatever.
Okay.
But I know it exists.
You know it exists. Okay. Well, good. Now that you know it exists, go off and give it a listen and let me know what you think on the other side.
Okay, will do.
Because I got enough to spare, and I'll be granting your permission, cause you haven't got a prayer. Well, I said, hey, hallelujah, I'm gonna come on, sing the praise, and let the spirit come on through ya. We got innocence for days. Well, I think I'm gonna burn in hell. Everybody burn a house right down and say what I wanna say. Tell me I'm an angel, take this to my grave. Tell me I'm a bad man, kick me like a stray. Tell me I'm an angel, take this to my grave.
Okay, well, it's good news, bad news, really. Good news is it's not as terrible as I remember it. I really couldn't stand this album when it came out. And it's not as bad as I remember it at all. Yeah, it's a decent enough song. It's got some nice melodies in it. There are certain things, though, that it's great with me, unfortunately, and that is totally my taste. But production-wise, it's got that collegey rock sound from, like, I don't know, mid-late 90s, with the compression, and I don't gravitate towards that at all. And the singer, slightly annoying. It's the way he overpronounces words. You get a feeling of this sort of bombastic self-importance to it, which, I don't know, sometimes you get that with a sense of humor. You get that with certain Morrissey stuff, but with this, I think they feel like they're really rocking it and giving the kids a message, and it just, it doesn't work with me. But it's not terrible by any means, and there's a decent tune in there. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
You play ring around the ambulance like you never gave a care. So get the choir boys around you, it's a compliment, I swear. And I said ashes to ashes, we all fall down. I wanna hear you sing the praise. I said ashes to ashes, we all fall down. We got innocence for days. Well, I think I'm on a burning hell. Everybody burn a house out there and say what I wanna say. Tell me I'm a nature. Take this to my grave. Tell me I'm a bad man. Gag me like a stray. Tell me I'm a nature. Take this to my grave.
Just want to say that sort of chorusy bit there. Is it just me, or does it sound like very Green Day-ish? The sort of, not the very beginnings of Green Day, but when they went a bit more poppy. Just me then.
You better run like the devil, cause they're never gonna leave you alone. You better hide up in the alley, cause they're never gonna find you a home. And as the blood runs down the road, you see me creeping up his road. I made a bad motherfucking taste, it's a Roman number. And I say what I wanna say. Tell me I'm a ninja. Take this to my grave. Tell me I'm a bad man. Gag me like a stray. Tell me I'm a ninja. Take this to my grave. Tell me I'm a bad man. Tell me I'm a bad man.
Eddie Van Halen's in. Yeah, I would imagine millions of people doing their nuts over this song. But unfortunately, I'm not one of those. It was all right. It certainly wasn't as terrible as I remembered. So that's a positive. But it just didn't. I just didn't get it. It didn't get to me. But let's talk it over with Andy and see what he loves about this.
So you've returned.
Yes, I have. Okay, so full disclosure. When the album came out, the Black Parade? No, what's it called? Yeah, Black Parade. Quite a few friends told me you should get this because it's really influenced by Queen and you'll really like it. So I got it, and I really disliked it. Couldn't stand it. It's still somewhere in the vaults of my digital library. But yeah, didn't enjoy it at all. And I remember hearing the end, which is sort of quite Floyd influence, but it wasn't my thing. There's certain things that tick me off and get me going, and it had a number of them. And then the single that got to number one,
Welcome to the Black Parade.
Welcome to the Black Parade. Couldn't stand it either. It's just not my thing at all, and absolutely hated. And I've not heard them since then. Okay. So I went into this with as much of an open mind as I could possibly muster.
Yeah, but you clearly had some experience with these guys before.
Yeah, and a real dislike. But the one thing this channel has taught me is it's so easy to dismiss and move on. Don't like it, go next. But what I've done with stuff, even if it's like not hit the mark, is think, right, why is it that I am so quick to dismiss, and try and analyze, and not, it also helps fine tune your taste, but also makes you stop and think and not be such a, reactionary dick. So this is why I try to clear my head. So I'd say overall to this, there are good parts to this. It's certainly not as, I think I said the reaction is not as terrible as I remembered. But there are still bits in this that, get my hackles up, and that is a taste thing, and it's things I like and don't like. And so it's not by any stretch of the imagination a bad song, and there's a lot in it to enjoy, you know. So, you know, but there are bits in it which, you know, what's the opposite of catnip? Arsenic? I don't know. It just, you know, bits in it that, you know, did set my teeth on edge and aren't my thing, you know. So
Well,
starts
I'd
off,
love to hear what both, like, the things you liked and the things you didn't like about the song.
exactly. So got a great beat to the intro, starts off, you know, and then there's that riff. And I tried to write it down on my notes, da dit da dit da dit da da. Something like that. Anyway, the dun 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 dun. You know, it's quite a familiar-ish kind of riff. You know, it's not anything out of the ordinary, but it's really nice. You know, and you know, there is a great melody throughout the whole song. Actually, you know, I'm trying to be as fair as I can. It really has got a great melody to it, and it sort of kicks in, and then there's a couple of lines which are pre-chorus. Again, really familiar, where it goes to something like, I think I'm going to burn in hell. Those like two lines there, again, feel really familiar, and I don't know what, but it does. And then when it goes into the chorus, it really reminded me, and it didn't back then, but it really reminded me now of Green Day, especially their sort of more poppy bit, not their first period, but the sort of more poppy bit. It's really catchy. And I really liked it, actually. When it comes out of the chorus into that bit where he goes, sin, I sin, I didn't like that. That wasn't funny, you know. And there's certain parts of it, I think, and I've said this before, are sort of more dramatic, you know, almost showy. Do you know what I mean? Like part of a show, you know, it felt like that rather than part of the. Am I making sense?
No, I understand it. It's funny to me that this is something you're calling out as something that takes away from the music for you. But I find that so funny because I know you like Queen. Hell, you've got Bowie behind you. Yeah. You like these guys who have these flair for the dramatics and who employ dramatics in their musical genius. So when you say that, sometimes I kind of roll my eyes a little bit, John.
I know. Just respectfully. I guess what it is with certain ones, you can see they're trying to do it. And others you
feel it's contrived, and then you feel it comes more natural.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So it goes through another verse, and there's a bit where he goes, again, my notes are crap on this, I apologize, but it's the line starts ashes to ashes, da, 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 da. And there's these lovely sort of guitar riff stabs in it, which again really liked. And then it goes into a chorus again, and then there's a bit of a thing, and then it goes into again. I've managed to just get the first line. There's a bit where it says, "You better run like the devil."
Yeah,
and it's very much like Jet. Are you going to be my girl? And that's the way they do it is it's riff sings the line, riff sings the line, riff. You know. And that's really effective. Again, you know, I loved it in that, loved it in this. Really, really nice. And then it comes to, again, sort of more of a culmination. And then there's this guitar over the sort of the last, you know, coda going out of it, which is very Eddie Van Halen almost, you know. And that's not quite my style, if you know what I mean. I think overall, to sum it up, there is a feeling, and I do know this is the bit that's probably clouding it a bit. I do know that it was a concept album. I do know it's about guy, you know, etc. I mean, you can explain it better because my memory's not great. So there is this feeling of this sort of slightly overblownness to it, and you sometimes get that with Muse songs as well, where they can be a bit OTT. And again, for millions of people, that's what they love. For me, it doesn't tick the box, you know. And again, Muse, hugely popular, and people love the bit where Matt Bellamy, is it, goes absolutely over the top, and it can be the bit where I switch off. But you know, and that's why all these different things are there, because it ticks different people's boxes. I will say that because this, as I remember when it came out, I know where I was working at the time this came out, so I've got an idea that it's early noughties. but it sounds the production almost like it's late 90s, and that American sound, which again I wasn't particularly fond of. An overall feel, there's slightly like compressed guitars and that sort of feel wasn't my thing, you know. And the other thing in terms of criticism, and I don't want to be overly harsh, because I said I enjoyed quite a lot of the song, and it really surprised me how much I enjoyed it, because I couldn't stand it when I first heard all that. I'll probably listen to it all in one go, which is probably too much for me to digest as well.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, the singer sometimes he just it was a bit too much like I know it's something you love as well, but it's that almost that musical theatre. He over pronunciates certain words, which again, I'm sure there's bands that I listen to where I do like that, but I think with other elements, it's just here and there. Again, it slightly sort of me a bit, you know.
See, that's when you brought up the Ashes to Ashes part, and when he's singing that, he kind of rolls his tongue,
yeah,
and it's I don't know, it is like a theatrical way of doing it,
yeah.
but I adored when he did that, because it has this rhythmic flow to it that mimics the music, and it's just like, oh, this is creative.
I'm not at all saying that I'm right here or anything.
Oh, no, yeah. I'm not trying to like pick a fight. I'm just, it's so
taste.
funny, right? It's so interesting how it can hit.
Because I think some of the things that I dislike about this are the plus points which other people make them adore. You know, exactly. Which is why, you know, half the stuff that I recommend, no one ever listens to it. It's me that loves it. You know, it's the other way around. You know, it's exactly it. Exactly it. So I think the what I see as the bits which irk me are probably the actual trademarks of this band, which make them so popular.
Yeah.
Which you know. But I again, not to sort of dismiss this in any way. You know, it's a decent song. I enjoyed quite a few bits of it. It's not overall. It's not something I would reach for. But having said that, I could listen to it. It's not, and it was so much better than I remembered. I remember it being quite painful. But honestly, but I was probably a lot more intolerant back then as well.
That could be.
I'd say I was definitely a lot more musically snobbish than I am now. I probably still am a bit, but I definitely was then. So it's easy to dismiss stuff. And there's bands that I like now which I couldn't stand back then. So it all changes. But overall, this is interesting, and it was good to hear something which I had dismissed musically and actually see the qualities in it that the bits that I liked as well. So that was really interesting.
Well, thanks for giving it another go. I mean, it's always sometimes that's good to go through those motions and revisit something that you had initially completely written off, but perhaps didn't give enough time. Not to say that would completely win you over, but it would at least give you a new and perhaps better perspective on something that this was like undeniably popular. This album was huge.
Oh yeah.
And it came out in 2006, to put a specific number on your.
Right.
You probably maybe you thought a couple years earlier than that, but 2006 is right in the middle of the aughts.
Yeah, I had in my mind about 2004 or 5, so I wasn't hugely out. It must have been just as I left that job then. But
it was like October of 2006, which is kind of interesting because it was like right around Halloween, and this is a very almost Halloween-y kind of album. You know what I mean? It's got some Nightmare Before Christmas kind of Tim Burton-y vibes going on.
I remember the graphic design to it with the little guy, and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, I'm right in thinking, I think that this was this was championed by the sort of emo wave that was going through then.
Yeah, but it was also wildly accepted outside of
mainstream got to number 1,
and it's because, well, it's incredibly much more mature than what was just normal emo stuff going on at the time, because that's just heartbreak and cul-de-sac teenage, living. It can be a bit much. I'm one of those people where this casts such a wide net that it got me, because if it was just an emo album with emo themes, I'd be like, but this is like a rock opera about a guy who's diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he's going through the process of, hospice through death. And there are these recurring themes and characters and places, and House of Wolves is um, described as a fiery, fast-paced track setting the scene for the patient's arrival in hell. Throughout the song, the patient contemplates the dueling concepts of innocence and wickedness, weighing the worth of what he's done in life and how he's sinned. And the song was described by the band as being the patient's first glimpse into hell, which was imagined as a fiery jazz club filled with demons, wolves, and sinners, which explains kind of like the swing drum beat and the ooh, ah, and all that kind of stuff going on.
So
Which
yeah, I got the impression from this song that he was already dead at this point.
Yeah,
It's almost
yeah.
like the not limbo, but the sort of the waiting.
It's almost like he's
as it
being
were.
walked around by death to show you what your options are, and this is like the glimpse behind door number 1 or whatever, and it's hell. It's this crazy jazz club filled with calamity. It's it's
I'd
interesting.
probably pick that though.
What's that?
If I was, I'd probably pick that.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be tempting, which I guess is kind of like the whole MO of the devil. And
Well, I'm sure Miles Davis went downstairs, not upstairs.
yeah,
so
if that's what the options were, right?
Yeah.
Like him and L. Fitzgerald. So there the album has been compared to, or has been like said to have been inspired by albums such as Sergeant Pepper's. You have Pink Floyd's The Wall, which I think you alluded to Floyd. Even David Bowie, which I thought was funny because I came up to see Ziggy Stardust, and that's the exact era that they're.
It's completely. I had no idea, honestly.
Yeah. The band has said that Ziggy Stardust era, Bowie really inspired them, and obviously Freddie Mercury was a huge inspiration.
Yeah.
And there's also like tinges of glam rock and like stadium rock in this. So to me, this album, while being this whole rock opera about this guy who's dying and experiencing death in real time, and you're walking through it with him, it's also this love letter to 70s rock in a lot of ways. And that is something that's also way not emo. And also really interesting, especially around that time. I think it was an interesting time to give that era of rock music its flowers and acknowledge. And this is sort of that, like a love letter to that, I thought. And I love all the different sounds on this album, and I totally respect where you're coming from. But to me, this is one of my favorite albums of this year of 2006, and it was because how blindsided I was at this like screamo, like love heartache band was going to rope me in with this left field thing. Like I had no idea that they were capable of putting this out. It was one writer from NME, I think, said this was sort of like when they first listened to American Idiot, and they were like, by Green Day, a band you alluded to, and they were like, I didn't know that these guys were capable of writing something like this. And that's how I think a lot of people received this album, because they were thought, oh, it's just that emo band with the flop hair and the pale skin and the gothy kind of sound to them. So
actually, just go back to what you said just a couple of minutes ago. Actually, one thing that did pop into my head listening to this, with those riffs, was I don't know if it's a particular song, but I mean, and I don't know the band that well, but is it? The song, sorry, that popped into my head. This was Ballroom Blitz.
Oh, okay, yeah, I could see that too. That
'cause of the
definitely being
riffs.
some similarities there for sure.
It must be that. Yeah, that's the one that sort of popped into my head.
And there's a lot of that stop and lyrics over emptiness, and then the riff kicks in, and that's sort of like what you're talking about with the jet dynamic thing that they did with. So yeah, this is interesting. The members are Gerard Way, Ray Toro, Mikey Way, and Frank Iero. I think is how you pronounce it. I really like Gerard Way's performance throughout this album. He does lean hard into inspirations like Ziggy and like Freddie Mercury. Stage presence when I've seen some of the live stuff is pretty crazy, and just the whole outfit is very like goth Sergeant Pepper's, so it's very interesting aesthetic as well to match kind of the theme. But it is a bit much, the rock opera, the concept album, the elements of the stuff about Prague you don't like. So I knew I was like really taking a long shot with you on this one, but I still thought it deserved its time in the sun, and I'm a big fan.
I'm sure there'll be viewers of the channel who love this as well. You know,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
totally,
yeah.
You know, I'm fine with I try to keep, you know, and I think, got a fairly open mind and quite a wide ranging taste, but there's certain things, and I think this channel has helped me define and actually fine tune the stuff that really does grate me, and the reasons why, rather than just dismissing it. But yeah, I mean, there'll be plenty of people who really like this, and I can see how you know, why you would, you know, love this, you know, knowing as much as I do about your musical taste as well.
Yeah. Which in some cases is my cross to bear, or my pride to let shine, depending on who I'm talking to or what song.
Of course,
or
and
band
it's
I'm talking
same
about,
here. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm catching flack about oh god, the duo, the man and the woman who had a really pretty voice, but I thought was a little melodramatic, and it was the guy on the
Oh
keyboard.
yeah, so
Yes, like there are people out there that I know adore that stuff, and it just didn't hit with me, and not much from that genre does. And
yeah.
I hold it no ill will. I respect the fact that there's a huge following for it.
But yeah,
and
you're messing with people's memory here.
Yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, you gotta sort of, you gotta like let your ego
Those high school
die
discos, you know.
Yeah, you gotta let your ego die when you put this stuff out there. You can't covet it so much, or else you're just gonna set yourself up for heartache. So, and remind ourselves that we didn't write these damn songs. I mean, they just came along at the right time. So, all that being said, man, thank you for giving it another shot. I appreciate your candor, your ability to call out what you didn't and what you did like about the song. Everybody out there in the listening audience, let us know what you thought of My Chemical Romance, perhaps other tracks on this album you like, or whether you simply didn't like it at all, like John, which is totally fine. But with all that being said, we will see each and every one of you on the next episode of Into the Music.